I just got off a podcast with a guy who's in our organization. His name's Dan. And he's a young guy, bro. He's 28. You know, kind of the first year, didn't make any money. Joined somebody's team as a buyer's agent. Started doing some deals. The team leader was like, yeah, I'll teach you listings. After 2 years, Dan was like, hey, I want to learn listings. Team leader's like, nah, I don't think you're ready. And I told him, like, yeah, dude, like, people usually don't want what's best for you. They want the version of you that serves them best. So he went out. He got a guide, started focusing on expireds, circle prospecting, things of that nature. He started getting good outcomes, doing like 30 deals a year, 40 deals a year, like 25, which is great. Then he plateaued for like 2 or 3 years. He's doing the same thing. And he's like, man, and then the guidance he was getting is just like, we'll make more calls. And then, you know what then they started to tell him, hey, I don't think you believe that you can do more. He was like, no, I believe I can. And they're like, no, I don't think you can. He's like, okay, I don't think you do. And he's like, there's got to be something else. And then he goes online. He bumps into, my channel. He starts learning new things. And then he comes to Do More Deal Summit because a guy that's in his like mastermind group's like, yo, you should come. He sees what we're talking about. He hears people saying that they were in the same position as he was. It's like, dude, these guys are like, they know my experience. And he's like, this is it. He decides to partner with us. But it takes him 3 months. He said he heard you talk on stage and you were talking about how you've been implementing marketing and become a marketer, right? You went from being purely a world-class salesperson to turning into
a telemarketer. I went from being a telemarketer. It's still a market. It's still a form of marketing.
So you went from being a strict telemarketer, and that's it. And if anybody suggested anything otherwise, you were like, nah, I'm not gonna listen. To marketing, and particularly like cash offers and cash offer leads, PPL and things of that nature, and how you're exploding, on track to do more deals you've ever done. I think 150 this year, make more money than you've ever made in terms of top line revenue and net to you. And he said he made a note of it. He was like, oh, this is interesting. So he partnered with us after the event, but then he made a note. It took him 3 months though, because 7 times said is once heard. He keeps humping on the group call. He's hopping on your call. He's hearing you talk about it. So he finally implements it. And he has some callers that are, I guess, making calls, whatever, with, for cash offers. And he's made an extra $100,000 this year. I think it was 110,000. 10 listing appointments, 4 listings taken, 3 wholesale deals. So 7 out of 10. All because A, he got proximity, and B, his mind was open to something different. I know for you, it started when you started to attend different types of events where people were talking about these types of transactions, but then you had the courage to actually like implement it.
Yeah. So the first time I was exposed to it, I went to a wholesaling seminar with Angel.
Yep.
And what I realized at the wholesaling seminar, I was like, okay, I'm a dominant listing agent. My avatar is a motivated seller.
Yep.
And then I said, okay, a wholesaler's avatar is a motivated seller. And what I realized is that I had the skills to be able to convert, but I wasn't as creative as it relates to generating leads. If I ask real estate agents, I'm like, okay, what's the best way to get motivated seller leads? People would say, well, cold call, Zillow, realtor.com, Yelp, Google recommended. And when I went to these seminars, they were like, okay, it's not only expireds, there's all these different lists. And then there's direct mail, also pay per lead, there's pay per click. And what I realized is that their offer was a lot more attractive than a realtor's offer. We're both targeting the same people, but the responses that they're getting are a lot higher as opposed to a realtor, meaning hey, I will buy your property for cash, meaning I will give you money. Which one's going to get somebody to call you? I will give you money or give me money, or basically pay me money and pay me 5 or 6%. And I started looking around me, and I started looking at okay, Zillow has a button where it says, hey, get your cash offer today. And then I started looking around, Open Door has this, hey, I will buy your property for cash. Redfin has this. And I started looking around, and I'm like, okay, everybody is adding these offers that people are inquiring to. And then what I realized, I'm like, okay, look, the main thing is just generating the lead. And once you generate the lead, some of them may not work out for the cash offer. They may or they may not. But then at that point, if you have other products and other solutions, you can sell them different things. So the generating the lead's actually the very easy part. That's the easiest part of the puzzle. It's the converting the lead that people struggle with a little bit more. And then making that transition from a cash offer lead to hey, look, the cash offer is not going to work out for you, or you open to putting it on the open market.
the evolution for you that opened up your mind was like, hey, there's other ways for generating leads, and the avatar is the same. It's a motivated, qualified seller. Then this awareness of like, hey, the hard part isn't that generating the lead, because there are all types of companies that have actually gotten really good at finding people online that will raise their hand and say that they're interested in, selling their home. And you notice this pattern, right? Because we share with people regularly, like, if you want to produce favorable outcomes, you need to be able to recognize patterns. But then two is, once you recognize the pattern, have the courage to use it. So you recognize this pattern, and then you started to have the courage to actually apply it and use it.
And then I also saw a flaw. What I mean by that is, like, let's say that I want to take a commercial listing. The flaw is that if you go to a residential listing agent, he's going to market it on the residential websites like the MLS, Zillow. You go to a commercial agent, he's going to market it on LoopNet and CoStar. And that's a flaw, because either you get a commercial agent and then you miss out on the MLS traffic, or you get a residential and you miss out on the commercial website. So whenever I started taking commercial listings, I said, that's a flaw. I'm like, why don't I just offer both? Why don't I offer the MLS and the commercial websites? And then my offer is superior. It's the same thing, the flaw that I noticed. I'm like, okay, the investors are only like, sell me your property for cash. Otherwise, I want nothing to do with it. And the realtors are like, hey, list the property. I don't have a cash offer option. Like, hey, you're better off listing it. So what I realized is that the model of the future, or the model that is going to work, is combining those two, where us as agents actually offer both of these items. And when meeting with an individual, you can have both on the table and then allow them to make a decision as to what is best. But either way, you're able to monetize the lead, as opposed to the lead going to the trash. Now, if you're able to monetize more leads, you're able to increase your marketing budget and offer more than some of these investors are offering, because you have different ways of being able to monetize the lead.
Yeah, it's 100% right. And so you were recognizing that pattern, and I was recognizing that pattern simultaneously, because I, developed a relationship with Pace, where he found me online, Pace Morby, #1 creative finance guy on the planet. And he invited me to speak on his wholesale hotline. And I've spoke with him and Jamil a couple of times. And they said something to me, which was interesting. They were like, hey, why do you think our communities don't speak to each other? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, investors don't talk to agents, and agents don't really go to investor events, and vice versa, in terms of like hanging out with one another and learning from one another. I said, well, for two reasons. The first is, and I mean this lovingly, okay, you guys talk smack, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the first thing Ryan said when we sat down, Pineda, to do his podcast, was like, oh, he's an agent. It's like, I'm like, Pace, I didn't hop on this call being like, oh, you guys are those wholesalers who flood my emails with lowball offers and then give me static about not responding to them. like, and they kind of chuckled. And then I was like, yeah, the other reason is because we have the same avatar, right? Which is that it's a motivated seller. And what I told him is like, look, your community can learn from my community, and like mine and Jose's community, what to say and how to say it. Be really polished, skilled salespeople. My community can learn from the investor community on how to think creatively and outside of the box of just listing the property. Then he invited me to an event, this Clever Summit, right? And he's always kind when I'm there, and he had me stand up, whatever. So what ends up happening is people come to me. I have agents coming up to me being like, hey, yeah, like I do 100 deals a year. I'm like, great, good for you. I'm like, what do you do when somebody wants a cash offer? Nothing. Then the wholesalers come up to me, Jose, and they're like, hey, yeah, we do 200 deals. And I'm like, great. I'm like, you're getting 20 offers accepted a month? He's like, yeah. I'm like, how many offers are you making a month? He's like, 200. I'm like, how many listings are in there? He's like, I don't know, maybe 10. I'm like, what are you doing with those? Nothing. So you notice this pattern. I noticed this pattern. We put those two things together because, as kind of leader of leaders, like, our job is to really be looking out and saying like, hey, because business is a strategy and people, like, what strategy is superior? What's working at the highest level? And we both came to the conclusion like, hey, this model of being able to do retail and increase product knowledge, because when you really think about it on a really tactical level, there's very clear reasons why it's working so well. Because there's only 4 ways to increase business: increase leads, increase conversion. Ascension, like you sell somebody a single family residential home and then you sell them a portfolio of properties for their investment portfolio. So you ascend them into other like higher products. Or retention, you keep them for longer. So the major problem right now from 6.5 million to 3.9 million transactions is just a lack of deals. So if we want to increase our production in that environment, we need to look at those 4 variables. And the 2 that we've been focused on, you have, and I've been focused on sharing with everybody in the organization, is increasing leads and then increasing conversion. So the model is you have a funnel, you put all your past client centers of influence, all that stuff into the funnel. You take a niche like probate, divorce, something you can snipe down, go into the marketplace every day and have conversations with people because they have higher densities of motivated, qualified sellers. Then you include these cash offers, whether it's PPL, you have dialers, whatever. You get really good at that conversation. You ask lots of questions. And then what it comes out at the bottom is either retail, fine, we list it, or it's creative. But I need to know the product knowledge to be able to convert. And then what happens invariably, because it's happening for you, it happened for Daniel, it's happening for, all these other people that, are embracing this strategy and utilizing it, is that your retail business goes up. You actually list more homes. That's what's happening for you. Then the second thing that happens is you do creative deals, but because the rips are so big on the creative side, you create this massive new flow of revenue. So what you're doing simultaneously is actually 2 things. You're increasing leads and increasing conversion. And that causes everything to explode, right? And you're doing that kind of at scale, and other people in the organization are just beginning to implement that and already getting like 6 figures more in revenue from both the retail and the creative.
Everybody is here in this room because they've made a commitment to leading, whatever that is, whether that's on your real estate teams and transaction volume, whether that's with building an organization. And we do 2 big events a year, right? We do the Do More Deals Summit, which was fire. Yes, clap it up for that. That was fire. The second event we do is this, which is a leadership retreat. This retreat is more intimate, it's private, and it's only for those that are committed to leveling up.